Good evening, and welcome to the Chef Connection. My name is Dolores Allen. I'm the president of Center for Housing Education and Financial Fitness, also known as Chef. Chef has created a platform to connect its partners and the community, providing education and resources in an effort to gain healthier households in the community. And for the next 25 minutes, we're going to connect with you. My guest this evening is Ms. Sharice Brooks with Fix Your Affairs. She is also a member of Chef. Today, we are going to discuss fundamentals of long-term investing and estate planning. This is a live hotline television program, so you want to call or text your family and friends to call into the show and ask any questions they may have at the number down on your screen, 312-738-1060. So welcome, Sharice, to the show, and thank you for being a guest today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Would you like to share with our viewing audience a little background information on how you got started with this business and how long you've been providing this education on this topic?
Okay. Well, Fix Your Affairs came out of actually what you would call a tragedy, but it became my purpose. So just 4 short years ago, my mother passed away, and she didn't have her affairs in order. Our lives were in shambles. My siblings and I had to pull ourselves up our own bootstraps because all of her affairs were all over the place and we had no roadmap for how to handle things. And so what I started to do was start educating people along the way. As I knew more, I taught more. As I received information, I gave more. And so what I started doing was helping people everywhere I go get their affairs in order.
All right. All right. Okay, so there you have it. And for those of you who are just tuning in, you're watching the Chef Connection. And our topic today is the fundamentals of long-term investing and estate planning. So give us a call, again, at the number at the bottom of your screen for any questions. And this valuable information is going to be going forth this evening. So you want to call your family and friends and get them tuned into the show. So, Sharice, I want to just ask right now, what is your methodology for educating someone who is just beginning to entertain the idea of investing, long-term investing? What is your methodology for teaching them?
Okay, so before I even move into investments at all, I start with budgeting. And one of the reasons why is because if you don't plan your money and direct your money, you cannot properly invest your money. And so from budgeting, we start a plan. We look at what you have going on, what comes in, what's going out. Can you afford to invest right now? Is it feasible? Do you have short-term investments, short-term savings in place? Most financial advisors would tell you you would need at least 6 months of your expenses saved in an emergency account. Most people don't have that. They say 95% of our people has less than $500 in a savings account to take care of a short-term emergency. So just starting with something like that, we have to make sure that you can have the finances in place so that you can start investing. So from budgeting, we move on to understanding your credit, because I don't want people to go into debt. Our people are $1 trillion in debt, and they spend $1 trillion a day. Just doing average stuff. And so because of that, I have to make sure that they understand that investments is a long-term thing. And it's not a get-rich-quick scheme or overnight success type of thing. And they have to understand those processes in doing so. So when you talk about educating, we start with something as simple as the rule of 72. The rule of 72 shows someone how compound interest works. The rule of 72 came about from Albert Einstein, and he wanted to know how long it would take for your money to double. So if you take the number of 72 divided by the interest rate, it will tell you how many years it would take for your money to double. For instance, the example on the screen says your interest rate is 3%. It would take you 24 years for your money to double. Do the next one. In this example, this is your typical market right now, where on the screen it says, in times of historically low interest rates, it's especially important to start investing early. With a 1.5% interest rate, it would take you 48 years for that $10,000 investment to double to $20,000. Ladies and gentlemen, as a culture, most of us don't even start with the 1.5%. We're earning rates of less than 1% on our returns. So it would take what some people would call a lifetime for us to start investing. Albert Einstein didn't have a lifetime. He wanted to know how to do that faster. If you were to put your money into a financial institution at $10,000 at 1.5 or even 3%, it would take 24 years for that money to double. In that time frame, it will double again in another 48 years. And now you have 4 times as much money that you started with. But you want to hear the sad part about that is?
What's that?
Those financial institutions, they took that money to what you see as the purple, and they did the 12%, and they got $2.5 million and only gave you 40. In our culture, that's the learning gap that we have because no one is teaching how to get to that 12%. Where can you go to get to that 12%? So that your families can take advantage of generational wealth like their families.
All right.
There's one more thing I want to show you. This is what our families are facing. When I talked about the credit and talked about being in debt, this is what Rule of 72 can do to work against you. When you borrow $10,000 at 18% and you take forever with what it feels like to pay it back, you're paying back over $5 million.
Wow. Wow.
So, this is what I'd like to do. I like to educate people on how they can get started just understanding just mere numbers, mere basics on how money can work for you or against you.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that information. And it is just so important that we start learning how to handle our financial affairs in a more feasible way so we can just take advantage of our wealth. Which we so much deserve. We work so hard every day, and but we, as a people, sometimes just don't know how to manage our affairs. So this information is just so valuable, and we thank you so much for that. But Sharice, tell us, at what age do you recommend that someone starts to plan for long-term investing? What's a good age?
Okay, well, you're never too early to start investing, but what I tell people, as soon as you start working, start putting something to the side. So when I started by saying I teach people about budgeting first, I teach them to sit. And SIT stands for Saving, Investments, and Tithes. Okay. So learn to sit 10% to the side of every paycheck that you receive. 10% to your savings account, to your investment account, and to your tithes account. And the reason why is because we're taught as a culture to spend everything we got. We get paid on Friday and the money's gone before Monday, and then we're scrambling for the next 2 weeks until we get paid again. And if you start paying yourself first, which is what SIT represents, paying yourself first and paying into your current self, your future self, and then your gratitude for all of your wealth, then you will, in return, have wealth.
Okay, so 10% for yourself, investment, and tithes. That's what SIT stands for. Yeah, have to pay your tithes, 10%. All right, so that is some great information. So, Sharice, what strategies do you recommend to someone who gets a late start in investing? So it's like someone like middle age and they get a late start. Now they really want to dive in and taking their financial situation more serious and want to start investing.
Okay, so for that person, I would still start the same way. We're going to look at the budget and see where we are and see where we can kind of cut back on some of the luxuries. Those luxuries would be like cable or trips or anything. I mean, we just have to cut it where it's at.
That's
So it's
right.
not easy, but it's just necessary. So we would trim the fat, what I could like to call the fat, because it's the thing that expand the budget the most. As a culture, we believe in cable TV, which can be somewhere 300 some odd dollars. And you may say, I gotta watch my shows. Yeah, but do they pay you to watch those shows? You're not making any money by keeping up with the Joneses or whatever reality
Absolutely.
TV show is going on right now. So from there, I would say you could this is Chicago. So in Chicago, everyone has a hustle. So I'm not preaching that everyone gets a hustle. What I'm saying is everyone can find a way to make some extra money if they really needed it.
Yes.
When I look at prom season and they spend thousands, or baby showers and they spend thousands. So don't tell me that people can't come up
Don't
with
have
ways
the
to
money.
find money, because they find money. It's just what they value.
What they value.
So we really understand people's values when we start looking at their budget.
Absolutely. It's all about putting your priorities in place.
That's right.
Putting your priorities in place. Wonderful, wonderful information. Again, if you just tune in into our show, The Chef Connection, you can call in with questions by dialing the number at the bottom of your screen, 312-738-1060. And we're going to pause at this moment to share some information about what Chef is offering. And so we want to share this information for nonprofits, startups, and small businesses in honor of Black History Month. We are offering a 3-month free membership. You have to sign up no later than February the 29th. You can go to our website at www.mychef.org. When you sign up, if you sign up before February 29th, you will have the opportunity to join us for our Entrepreneur Business Breakfast on Saturday, March 21st, 2020. And you can make a guest appearance on the Chef Connection, as Ms. Brooks is doing today. And Ms. Brooks, again, she is a member of Chef. And so this is how we help connect our partners to give out this valuable information, education, resources to the community. So don't delay. Go to our website, www.mychef.org, and just click on services and then the join button. Put in your information and then click on the join button, and then we will contact you within the next 24 to 48 hours. Another bit of information that we want to share with you also is Miss Brooks, Sharice Brooks, and we also have an important connection to the Southside Community Federal Credit Union. And so this is what this is all about, sharing and connecting. That's what Chef is about. So we want to share with you our workshops that are being hosted by the Southside Community Federal Credit Union. We're located at 5401 South Wentworth Avenue. And so on this coming Saturday, these workshops are free of charge. Again, valuable information that we share with the community. We just ask that you come out and get this information so you can learn some of these things to handle your affairs. If you want to become a homeowner, we are having a Preparing for Homeownership on Saturday, February 22nd. The workshops are from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. I'm going to back up. This coming Saturday, we're hosting Basic Money Management and Budgeting on Saturday, February the 15th. Again, from 10:30 to 12:30. And on Saturday, February 29th, starting and growing your business. If anyone out there have a dream or vision to start your own business, or you started your business and you want to grow it, this is the class for you, free of charge. So we invite you to come out to get this valuable information. Okay, So back to our program. We're going to talk now more about estate planning. And so I want to ask Sharice, how much protection is in a will? I've been kind of hearing that you need more layers of protection when it comes to estate planning outside of a will. So share with us how much protection a will versus a trust provide.
Okay, give me. It's the next one. Okay, so here on the screen, you'll see how wills and trusts typically overlap. So on the left, you'll see how wills allow for the naming of guardians or for children or elderly parents if you currently take care of them. And it specifies an executor or a personal representative for your account. Trusts, on the other hand, avoids conservation. I can't even talk today. So it helps families bypass probate, maintain privacy after death, protects you from the court challenges, and avoids conservatorship and guardianship. Now here's where they overlap. It allows revisions, it allows naming of beneficiaries, and they both provide for asset protection. Now here's a typical family. A typical family would say, I want a will in place because I want everybody to know who I want to get my favorite coat, my designer bag, and those different things. Like some people are just to the letter with certain things they want to leave to certain people.
Yes, yes.
And then on the other side, someone may say, I want a trust. Well, a lawyer would tell you that trust should be in place for anything of value at $250,000 or more. And the reason for that is because there's taxes, there's legal things involved when it comes to trust. And so a lot of people say, well, I want to put everything in a trust because I want to protect my assets. But then they don't know how to manage the trust because there are annual fees for trust that people are unaware of. So let's talk about things that you can do outside of wills and trusts to still protect your family and keep those things with you. And leave the legacy within the family. So, for instance, you could have power of attorneys in place. These typical things come into play. Oh, that's it for the slide. These particular things come into place when you're living. You have a medical power of attorney, a living will power of attorney, a financial power of attorney. Those things can be signed and documented with a witness and a notary. And that usually costs next to nothing. If you bank at a financial institution, they'll notarize things for you free of charge, or sometimes it's a small fee. And then that can get some protections in place for you, which would avoid some of the costs of having a trust in place. There are institutions that will help families get wills in place for less than what the nominal thousands of dollars that are being charged. And if you contact Chef, we'll let you know on how to get those things in place for your family.
Okay. So what would your recommendation would be? Would it be to just do both, just for the extra protection?
Well, I would say each family situation is not necessarily cookie cut.
Right.
I look at every situation individually, and one of the reasons why is because while a trust may work for someone else because their assets exceed $250,000, or the complexity of the nature of their situation is so complex to the point where a trust should be in place. When the family's fighting, the beneficiaries don't get along, those different things, then maybe it's better if we put this in a trust. And then a wills, not to say that wills mean that families won't fight, but it just means when times are hard, like when people are going through, they're really going through. And so being emotional is a part of the situation. So because of that, that's why when you spell things out in writing, it's important for you to contact those individuals and say, hey, I'm putting your name in my will because X, Y, Z. Or I'm naming you executor of the trust because I desire you to do X, Y, Z. If that's something you can handle, and you need to have that conversation with them ahead of time, because somebody might say, I don't know why they left me in charge. I'm going to lose it if I lose them. And that's a real reality. And so as a culture, statistics say that 50% of our people won't have a will in place. One is because they don't know how, two is because they don't know where, and three is because they procrastinate. They feel like they have time. And ladies and gentlemen, we saw last week with the biggest media
Yes.
frenzy going on with Kobe Bryant that, time is not promised to anyone.
That's right.
And so because of that, your time is now to get those things in place. I have those things in place for me and my siblings, and I didn't have them in place before my mom passed, but I definitely have it in place now because
Yeah.
we can't afford to wait, we can't afford to risk it, and we definitely can't afford to just chance it on our families getting it together when they fall apart.
Absolutely, absolutely. And especially if you have property, things of that nature, and you need to, get those things in place as well because it's a fight when you have to go to probate.
That is true. So I want families to avoid probate. One way they can do that, like for instance, if it's grandma's house, she can have a document signed, like a transfer on death sign, which you can get downtown at the Recorder of Deeds, and that costs about $98. It's not something you do through me. It's definitely done through the state, but that's something that you can avoid extra costs. So what I teach families is not how to pay me more, how to spend more money, but how to keep more money in your family
Yes.
so that you can grow wealth not only while you're living, but they can grow wealth when you're gone.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and it is because it's very challenging. Once the property has to go to probate, even though you're the next heir and you will eventually be on title on that property once it goes through probate, it's just a process that one has to go through in the household to even get to that point.
Yes.
So, yes. So, Sharice, I want to ask, do you recommend prearrangements? And if so, why? Why do you recommend if you do?
Okay, so that's another thing that people fall apart when it comes when your time has come. They worry about how they're going to pull it together. What do they write in a will? What kind of favorite dress did they put on? What color casket to have for you? And because of that, you can have prearrangements done. That's usually financed through a financial institution. Some funeral homes have them. And as long as it's backed by a financial institution, a commercial financial institution, then your funds will be protected. And it's never too early to start doing that. Not everyone can afford to pay big insurance policies, but because of that, you can start paying a little bit at a time. And so I've seen it work where if you just have the discipline, a little bit at a time, will save you some time in the future.
Okay. Would you say it's less expensive when you do prearrangements? Perhaps, let's say,
You can lock in a rate now with a funeral home, and they can guarantee your family XYZ. You get a chance to plan your own arrangements and have those things in place that you really want it done versus leaving it up to your family doing the guesswork.
so nothing changes once you lock it in. God forbid that day comes that nothing can change that rate is what it
Yeah,
is.
that's one of the
set up.
benefits of having something prearranged.
Okay.
That you'll get a chance to have all your wishes in place when it's that time.
Okay, well, a lot of great information went forth, but unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this evening to our viewers, and we will see you next time on the Chef Connection. Thank you for tuning in, and good night.
Thank you.